doing well. Today we will be talking about the anthropological perspective of the self. So, the origin of the self explores the role that selfhood plays in defining human society, and it is considered as the genetic and the cultural origins of the self. A famous sociologist in the name of Eduardus argues that the other awareness of the self is just relatively how to do that? Early evolutionary development, which is already present throughout the primate clade and perhaps beyond. But self awareness is actually a product of the sharing of social models, something that only humans appear to do. Eduardo said that the self of whom we are aware is not something innate within us, but rather it is a model of our self produced as a response to the other models which are actually offered by other people. Um, in fact, he said that the self plays a particular role in socialization, and there are types of self that we generate in our individual journeys to and through the adulthood or towards the attaining of our future self. So, for us to better understand this aspect of the self in the socialization process, we will be discussing the self through the anthropological perspective, and the following are our objectives. So first, we must increase awareness of the various dimensions of anthropology and its influence on the self-concept. Second, we have to understand how each culture developed in unique cultural lens, and also to examine cultures, our own cultures or others' cultural identity as well from a global perspective. And lastly, we have to demonstrate a critical reflective thought in analyzing how culture influences ourselves through an essay. So you might be asking yourself, what is anthropological perspective? Why is it important? What exactly is the relevance of anthropology and understanding the self? So, for us to be able to answer those questions, then we just have to simply define anthropology. So, what then is anthropology? Anthropology is actually the study of people. It's not just the study of people, but it is the study of people, including the past and the present. It focuses on the understanding of human condition, both the cultural and the biological aspects of the people. And other than culture concept, anthropology also has a different distinctive ways of thinking about the world, the human cultures, the society, and the people, of course. And in the anthropological perspectives, it actually focuses on the study of the full scope of human diversity and the application of that knowledge to help people from the different backgrounds. So, anthropological perspective is very important because it looks at different shared aspects of humanity like language, cultural connections, economics, and even the curiosity to find a common thread among those things that I have mentioned. So, what makes anthropological perspective unique as well is that unlike other social scientists, uh, the anthropologists look beyond the confines of our own society, and so it also studies other societies, and then they compare and contrast the different beliefs and practices of the other societies, including their past and present societies as well. So the holistic cross-cultural and comparative approach can definitely help us think more deeply about other people and other cultures and how they live, and as well as it will help us live with more consciously in our global world. Also, I believe it changes our way of thinking about the world because it will provide us a wider appreciation of the human experiences, and not just the experiences of the human beings that belongs to our society, but including those experiences from other societies. So there. Um, I believe that an anthropological perspective will allow us to understand how the evolutionary package inherited from our ancestors work before in today's environment, thus providing us the present self that we have, at the same time providing us the present society we are in currently. So the hallmark of anthropology and its holistic is how would I say this one? The holistic perspective is actually understanding humankind in terms of the dynamic interrelationships of all aspects of human existence. Now, there are different aspects of culture, and of course, society exhibit patterned interrelationships like political, economy, social configurations, religion, and what have you. So, culture cannot be divorced from biology and adaptation or language from culture. So contemporary societies cannot be understood without consideration of historical and evolutionary processes. So in that note, let us now go deeper and trace the history of ourselves before we came into our very existence today and to that, we will now be talking about our society, and we will also be talking about cultures that is, of course, in relevance to the society. So, what then is society? Actually, guys, uh, if we are going to define society, it is the totality of social organization and the complex network of interconnected, interdependent, and overlapping social relationships. So please take note that we have to emphasize on the interconnectedness and on the interdependentness and these overlapping relationships among each other because the members of a particular society like us belonging to a particular society, we always interact and we always interrelate with each other, and at the same time we share common culture and territories. So if we're going to put it this way, if we were going to make it simpler, like look at the state and the society. Okay, the state has four elements in order for us to consider it as a state. The same with society, because actually without this society there would never be a state. So what are these elements that we are talking about? Of course, we have the people, the territory, the government, and also the sovereignty. The same with this, with the same with the society. As I've said earlier, there would never be any state without the society. So society also has those elements that the state needs or should have, and these are people, us, and then the government that would govern us, and also the territory, because our space is very important and we have to have a definite territory for us to coexist harmoniously, aside from the government that would govern our manners of behaviors, and lastly the sovereignty, our independence to freely act on our own ways, but of course in accordance with the government's guidelines. Okay, so there. Take note also that there are three elements of society. So what are these three elements? So number one, it says that societies are social and cultural units. Second, the social and cultural aspects of human life are inextricably intertwined. And third, culture is a social product. So this means that culture encompasses human elements beyond biology. For example, our norms, our values, the stories that you tell, the things that we have learned, and the acquired behaviors that we have, our religious beliefs, our art and fashions that we appreciate, and all the things that we have, in our society. Um, those are actually very very important, and at the same time culture is what differentiates one society from the other. So, as I've said earlier, we coexist with other society, and so other societies also they have their own particular cultures. It could be the same as ours, or it could be a little bit different from ours. It could be the exact opposite from ours. But the thing is, culture provides us a lot of things, no, and even help us to coexist regardless of our diversity as human. So different societies have different cultures, I have just said. Now, however, we have to take note. It is very imperative that we must not confuse the idea of culture and society, because when we say culture, it represents the beliefs and the practices of the society, while society represents the people. It represents us and those who share those beliefs and practices. So neither society nor culture could exist without the other. Okay? So whenever there is society, then there is culture. Whenever we will talk about culture, then it always includes a particular group of individuals, or it always refers to a particular society. So um, remember when we talk about the concept of self, we trace it from our past and then we come up to our present and even include our future. So the same thing with the how would I say this one, huh? The same with societies, okay? If we will talk about societies, then we have also to trace back its past. So the following are the types of societies. Of course, we have the hunting and the food gathering societies, and this kind of society existed way back then. These are the earliest form of human society who rely their daily subsistence from natural vegetation and wild animals. And then if we be asked, are this kind of society still existing as of the moment? I think yes, but I think it's only in the mountainous area of our country, in our urban area, or even in the rural. It's not much visible, because again those kind of society is considered to be a thing in the past. Okay, so we move forward to another type of society, and that is horticultural societies. And this kind of societies stand gardens and fields using only human muscle and handheld tools, no. This kind of society are actually still existing in our country. In fact, last year during the outbreak of the pandemic, where there was this extreme lockdown, okay, our family was in panic, because if there's a lockdown, how could we have our necessities, how could we provide food? And so we decided to farm, we decided to have our own gardens, we decided to plow our own fields with the help of our friends and other family members. So of course, it is using their manpower, their muscle, and then of course with the aid of the handheld tools. So most definitely, this kind of society is still existing as of the moment. Then we have the pastoral societies, which rely on herding and the domestication of animals for existence. They are relatively small and mobile, but it could be a thing in the past, but it could still be present as of the moment, because I believe that some of our neighbors are still doing this thing, that they are raising their own cattle and cows and goats and pigs, no, in their own backyard. So, but the thing is, this kind of society is not existing if you're living in the urban area or in the city, because if you will do that, then your neighbors will gonna go to the health and sanitation office and they would complain about you, because it will be causing too much air pollution, because it will gonna be stinking. Okay, so it might affect the businesses of other people, most particularly if your neighbor has a restaurant. So that is why this kind of society just usually are visible only in the rural areas. Okay, there. I think in Baybay Leyte and in Ormoc and in Holongos and some other parts of Leyte, we have this kind of society. Next, we have the agricultural societies, and this cultivates plants with the use of loaves. Uh, this kind of society is very important because without this kind of society, it is hard for us to survive because they are mainly responsible for providing our basic needs. No, and when we say basic needs, these are food. We need food to live people. So we have to pray all together that this agricultural society will exist forever and forever. But of course, this kind of agricultural society is not the same with the agricultural society that only uses flow to farm and to how would I say that one to plow the field like in the olden days that they used carabaos and muscle men to do it. These days we now have tractors. We are now combining the industrial society with the agricultural society. So moving forward, when we say industrial society, this arose as a result of the Industrial Revolution used mechanical means for the production of goods. This is actually good because when you use machines, no, in production of goods, it will help you to produce a massive how would I say this massive number of goods, and at the same time it will cost you a lot of time and money and even manpower. So there, industrial society or the revolution has provided us a very good means of surviving and making our daily lives, convenient and more efficient. And most especially when we talk about post-industrial societies, because post-industrial societies is a kind of society which depend on special knowledge to bring about continuing progress and technology compared to the industrial societies that depend on inventions and advancements that are being made by craftspeople such as the computer. Okay, so when we say post-industrial societies, these are the very high-tech societies that exist as of the moment. So example of which is that we have Japan, we have South Korea, of course. This country in Asia are very powerful. They're hegemonic countries. Why? Because when it comes to economy, they are booming and they are helping other countries as well, like us, the Philippines, because we are not good as they are, so they are providing us technologies that we need in a very cost effective manner. Okay, of course, some other parts of the country, we can have this kind of post-industrial societies, and most probably we could have Manila for that one. Cebu City, not much, a little bit, maybe starting to become one. Okay, so I'm sorry guys, I have to be very particular. I cannot just say that yeah, Cebu is booming, Cebu is good, bye bye is good, bye bye is that, but no, 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 no. We have to be very specific and we have to be very definite, and we have to base the classification based on its exact uh, definition of what it really is a post-industrial societies. So there you have, ladies and gentlemen, the types of societies, and this is according to Policy Peace 1996. So actually, this is based on Policy Peace 1996, the specifications of the types of societies. So, guys, I we are done talking about society and its kind and including its aspects as well. So now we will move forward to another important thing when we talk about anthropological perspectives in understanding the self, and that is cultures. So what then is culture? Okay, as I mentioned a while ago, we have the self and then we have the society being a part of the self, and society will always exist together with culture. Okay, so they are inextricably intertwined. So, what then is culture? So culture refers to the values, beliefs, behavior, and material objects that together form a way of life, our way of life. So um, culture includes what we think, how we act, and what we own. Okay, so it includes our possessions as well. Culture also helps us make sense of ourselves and the surrounding world where we live in, according to Michonis 2003. Um, it is said that when we say culture, it is a complex whole which includes our knowledge, our beliefs as well, our arts, our morals, our customs and laws, and other capabilities and habits that we acquired, as individual member of a particular society, according to Taylor, 1974. Now, when we say culture, guys, it is made up of number one, symbol systems. So when we say symbol systems, this consists of language. Now, language, take note, could be spoken or written, or could be through body gestures. And secondly, culture is also made up of information about the world. And when we say the world, it includes the physical, the biological, the geographical, and even the political and social aspects of the world. So, see, that is how complex culture is. It definitely is a complex whole. And it composes a lot of things. So culture is a term used by social scientists like anthropologists and sociologists to encompass all the facets of human experience that extend beyond our physical facts. So, culture refers to the way we understand ourselves, both as an individual person, like the self, and at the same time as a member of the society. The self being a part of the society, and it includes the stories that we have, the religions that we practice, the medias that we have right now, the rituals, and even the languages that we are using. So take note, guys, that it is critical to understand that the how would I say this one? It is critical to think of culture, or to understand the term culture, because it does not describe a single fixed entity, because as I mentioned a while ago, it definitely is a complex whole. So it is a useful heuristic or a way of thinking that can be very productive in understanding behavior. So as a student of social science, or as a social scientist, if you would consider yourself one, you should think of the word culture as a conceptual tool rather than as a uniform static definition, because culture necessarily changes, and it is changed from time to time by a how okay, so what causes this particular change in our culture? Of course, there's a variety of interactions with different individuals, okay, and there is a media that could influence us a lot, and there's also the existence of technology that would provide us, or it could definitely alter our way of life, because technology does not just give us comfort and convenience. In fact, it also provides us a new culture at the same time. So there, to to conclude, when we say culture, culture consists all the learned normative behavioral patterns that is all shared in ways or patterns of thinking and feeling and doing as well by a particular society, even towards another society. So that is basically the entire concept of culture. Okay, more or less and less of numerous, less and numerous. That is what culture is. So we will now proceed the other part or other topic involving culture, and that is the type of culture. Okay, so when we talk about the types of the culture, there are actually two things. There is this non-material culture, which means uh, intangible world of ideas, meaning we cannot see it, but we know for a fact that it exists. Okay, because it's our basically ideas. These are our beliefs. No, but when we say material culture, these are things that are tangible and that are being created by the members of the society. So, example of this are the tools or the artifacts that we have in our society. So, when we say material culture, guys, this refers to the objects or to the belongings of a group of individual. Okay, it could be our automobiles, it could be our stores, or any physical structures that we possess or that we own. Now, when we say non-material culture, it is quite in contrast with the material culture, because when we say non-material culture, as I've mentioned a while ago, these are our ideas, these are our attitudes, these are our beliefs. Okay, and this is these ideas, attitudes, and beliefs. These are being shared by a particular society. So there. But guys, please take note that even if material and non-material culture are two distinct things, and they definitely are different from each other. But when we say material and non-material aspects of culture, they could be linked. Okay, and when I say they could be linked, it means that they could exist together. And then in what way? It could be that the physical object would symbolize a particular cultural ideas. Okay, so as I was saying, material and non-material aspects of culture are linked, and then it's because the physical objects often symbolizes cultural ideas. So, for example, ladies and gentlemen, if we would travel, and then if we are going to use a flying vessel, then we do not go to the pilot and give our fare, right? So what we have is, what we do is that we will have first a plane ticket, and then perhaps a visa as well if it is necessary. Then we go to the airport, and then that is only then that we are allowed to ride on such flying vehicle. So in that particular example, I think that is obvious, is that the plane ticket is the material object, and then where is then is the non-material. Okay, the non-material aspect there, or the non-material culture there, is that the plane ticket represents a form of a non-material culture, most particularly when we say capitalism, because it is a manner or a way of conducting business or earning money, and the acceptance of paying for transportation as well. Okay, so I hope you were able to get the gist of how material and non-material aspect of culture are linked together. Okay, so um, another example is that, okay, our clothing, yeah, the way we dress, the way we how would I say this one? The way we dress, the way we wear our jewelry, our fashion. Okay, that is material culture, because those things are tangible, and those things we possesses those things. However, guys, if I will be talking to you wearing my two-piece swimwear, do you think it is appropriate? Okay, do you think I would be allowed to do that, or do you think in my proper mind I will do that, right? So that is stupid. Okay, so why did I say it's stupid? Because the non-material culture is acting on it. It is telling me that it is inappropriate for a learning facilitator to be dealing with her students dressing or wearing an inappropriate clothing, right? And that is basically why we don't go to church and wear our pajamas or night gowns. Okay, so and you don't also go to the swimming pool wearing your pajamas. Okay, So clothing is the material culture, and the manner, no, that we used we the manner that we use these clothings is linked with the non-material culture. So I hope everything is clear now between material and non-material culture. Now, on the other side of the slide, you have there the theory of culture. I hope I have not bored you with this discussion. I hope you are still listening and you were able to grasp the very importance of the this discussion. Okay, so continue. I will now continue. Theory of culture, there are just actually two theories that I consider which is deemed important, and so I will discuss it now. Uh, First is culture as a mode of adaptation. So, culture as a mode of adaptation is from Swartz, 1968. Accordingly, he said the culture of any society represents an adaptation or adjustment to the various conditions of life, including their physical, social, and supernatural environment. Again, when we see culture as a mode of adaptation, according to Swartz, 1968, it says that the culture of any social represents an adaptation or adjustment to the various conditions of life, including their physical, social, and supernatural environments. So, to put it simpler, it's like this: during the time of pandemic, when one coughs, when one has a cough, or when one has a fever, I think it is very unusual for us to go to our manghihilot, no, to go to the quack doctors and then to have hilot. Okay, in this time of pandemic, it changes our culture a bit because we are so conscious already and we are so scared of the coronavirus, and so we would rather go to the doctor of medicine, okay, a real doctor who studied science, in order for us to provide the exact and accurate medicine to treat us, or if not, if uh, or if not, how would I say this one? Diagnosis, okay? We would rather have the exact and definite scientific diagnosis rather than putting our chance to our manghihilot because we have cough and we have fever. Gone are those days that we would only drink royal and have some crackers with us. I mean, I sound old, but yeah, I was able to reach that kind of thing that when one is sick, then one will just give you, royal true orange, and then you will feel better. I think they think it that way. So that's culture, guys. Culture is a mode of adaptation. Culture changes from time to time based on its environmental aspects and based on its social aspects and even based on the political aspects. So there, the second theory of culture. Now let us move forward to the another theory, and that is behavior as biologically based. Okay, behavior as biologically based is from Walson, 1975. According to this theory, social behavior is determined by inborn genetic traits similar to the influence or genetic traits on lower animals. It says the existence of behavior patterns or culture universals indicates that much of culture is biologically inherited rather than learned. Okay. I suppose we will not agree with it strongly, but we will consider its point. So, again, behavior as a biologically based, according to Wilson, 1975, it says social behavior is determined by inborn genetic traits similar to the influence or genetic traits in lower animals, and that the existence of behavior patterns or culture universals indicates that much of culture is biologically inherited rather than learned. So, what does it mean? Okay, it means that culture and biology goes together. Of course, when we say culture and biology goes together, it definitely refers to us human beings, and we as a human beings, we are biological cultures. We are composed of our blood, bones, and flesh, and because of that, please excuse me, I have to drink. Okay. Okay, knowing for a fact no, that we are composed of our biological parts, so this biological parts needs to be tended to. So I was so thirsty and I have to drink. Going back, as I was saying, culture and biology goes together. So human beings are biological creatures. We are composed of our blood, bones, and flesh. And at the most basic level, guys, our genes expresses themselves in physical characteristics affecting our bodily aspects such as our skin tone, our eye color. But yet, human beings are much more than biology, right? We might be composed of our biological components, but we are more than that. And so, um, it is evident particularly in the way our human generates and how we live and how we adapt and adjust with the complexities of our culture. So, um, how would I put it this way so that we could better understand the behavior as biologically based? Okay, so I think it's like this. Um, if you notice, guys, if you notice, if we will see, if we will see someone who has a very brown, okay, what kind of physical attributes that we have as a Filipinos that would give us a distinction being a Filipino? So think the very obvious answer for that one, and of course the only correct answer for that one is the kayumangi thing, our skin tone. Why? Because according to this theory, behavior as biologically based, and of course, referring to our culture at the same time, what gives us particular traits, no, without speaking, without doing a thing or two, just basically based on our genetic traits, it will establish our societal identity. Okay, that is our skin tone. Another is that, okay, I think, okay, one of the behavior that we always associate with a particular culture is that, okay, I am guilty of kidding around and saying this lines whenever we have a stingy friend, okay, a stingy person, we call him kuripot. And then if he is not kuripot, he could be a business minded, and then we call him inchik or Chinese. Why? It is because we associate this behavior to the Chinese people. Being kuripot and being business minded is so Chinese. It is so not Filipino, and so uh, that particular example, I think completely explains the second theory that we are talking about. Okay. However, if you have some questions, then feel free to ask me on our next meeting. So there, I think we're done with the types of culture and the theory of culture. Now, let us move forward to the other aspects of culture, and most particularly the characteristics of culture and then the functions of cultures. So uh, the basis for this one, or our reference for the characteristics of culture, is actually Polispace 1996. So according to Polispace, the following are the characteristics of culture. So, number one, culture is a product of human behavior. What do you mean by this? Culture is a product of human behavior. I think we know that one already, that culture refers basically to the style of behavior that we have. And this style is found to be present in the behaviors of the majority of people living in a particular society and having a particular culture. So, these patterns actually varies from culture to culture, and as a result, consumptions vary among countries, and then the pattern of behavior you will see actually in South Asian culture will definitely not be seen in other cultures. So the behavior that is being established by the culture is found to be practiced by the majority as it is as it is being, how would I say this one, as it is being uh, practiced regularly by the society where you particularly belong. Okay, so um, we will never ever follow a particular pattern of behavior if we are not familiar with it. Worse, we will never ever follow a particular pattern of behavior if it is condemned by other society. So when we say it is condemned, then it is not famous, it is not welcome, and so we will never ever do so. So culture is a product of human behavior. Next, it is transmitted through learning. What do you mean by this? It is transmitted through learning. It's as simple as that. Um, Culture is what we learn through experiences and through interaction. So the aspect of culture are not found the very moment that we were born, right? We rather learn it from the people surrounding us, okay? From our social factors. They're the one who's responsible for providing us this particular set of cultures, because they are the ones who's teaching us and training us on how to behave in such particular manners. So it is transmitted through learning. So for example, if I am a Filipino, but then I grew up in Europe, and then what kind of particular culture would you expect me to have? Definitely, I will not have the Filipino culture in me, but instead, I will have the European culture, because it is where I was raised, and it is where I learned to do things, and so I would be following their patterns of behavior. So even if I am a Filipino, most likely I will be having the European culture, or it could be a mix between the European culture and Filipino culture. But most likely, my dominant culture will be the European culture. Okay, so next is that it gratifies human needs. So culture is gratifying. Culture provides us proper opportunities for the satisfaction of our needs and desires. How is that? Okay, so it's like this. Our needs, both biological and social, are fulfilled in our cultural ways. So culture determines and guides our various activities as a human being. So culture then is defined as the process through which human being satisfy their wants. So I think we would definitely ask this question: how does culture gratify our human needs? Okay, so if you could recall, while we were discussing the philosophical perspectives, we were talking about Sigmund Freud, and according to him, we all have urges. We have the id, no, and then the id will always tells us to go and get what we want, and to go and satisfy what we desire. Okay, so this urge is, according to Sigmund Freud, the libidos, and so we the libido will always urge us, no, to satisfy our wants. Okay, so let us be very specific with what particular urges we were talking here. So let us have our sexual pleasure. Okay, so human as we are, we do have this sexual pleasure. Then how does culture comes into play? Culture will tells us that we will act on it in a very specific manner. Culture tells us that before you are going to have a sexual intercourse with other person, you have to get married first. Okay, so there should be a wedding ceremony before you will give your body and have a carnal knowledge with the person you love. So that's how culture gratifies human needs. Okay, because we are living in a very cultured manner. So we are not barbaric and we don't do things like the dogs do and the cats do and on the streets. Our culture makes us way, way better. And our culture indeed makes us a human being and definitely a rational being with high moral standard. So there. Okay, another characteristics of culture is that it tends toward integrating a society. So how does culture integrates another society? So it's like this. Culture facilitates a generation of commitment to something larger than one's individual self-interest. Okay, because as I've mentioned over and over again that in anthropological perspective, there is the self, and then of course there is this society, and then there is this culture which belonging to a particular society. So culture, guys, is integrated. And take note that when we say culture, it's complex. So there are various parts of culture that is being interconnected, and these aspects of culture are also related to one another. And so, to truly understand a culture, one must learn all about its parts and not only a few. So that, let's say, how does it integrates towards? Okay, it always tends to toward integrating a society. It's like this: me belonging to a different society and you belonging to a different society, somehow, okay, as a class we become one particular society. And so being one particular society, your culture and my culture, okay, we could be sharing common culture but we could also have distinctive cultures, but we would see to it that we will coexist harmoniously, and at the same time I might be learning some of your culture and I will also might be sharing to you my own culture. So that's how culture integrates, or how would I say that, tends towards integrating a society. So that's the characteristics of culture. So we will now discuss the functions of culture. Starting with, it says that culture provides behavioral patterns. So how does culture provides behavioral patterns? Uh, it's simply to simply put it, culture provides us with a very specific guidelines as to how we would behave in our society. We are told to follow the norms and the laws that we have, and as I have mentioned a while ago, that society functions like the state, and so society also has the government and who's responsible for providing laws. Now, these laws will specifically governs our manners of behaviors. So that is how culture provides behavioral patterns. Next is that culture maintains the biologic functioning of the group. So how does culture maintains the biologic functioning of the group? Okay, every human generation potentially can discover new things, and of course, with the advent of the modern technology, just like what we have right now. Now, these technologies existed way back then, and this is because of the cultural skills and knowledge that the previous generations have had, and then they handed it to us, and so we are actually having a very good technology as of the moment now. As you can see, the new cultural skills and the knowledge are added onto what was already learned in the previous generations. So the previous generations has given us this good technology, but our current or our present society may also have their own cultural skills, and may also have their own uh, special knowledge that can be added on to what we have already have, or to what is being passed by the previous generation. Hence, technologies are getting better and better, and so we have a lot of gadgets to choose from. We have a lot of different cars to choose from, and our knowledge is becoming more advanced, and acquiring knowledge is becoming easier as well. So um, let's put it this way. Uh, the reason for that, it's because culture is actually cumulative. So due to this cumulative effect, as you can see, when we were when we were in high school, I know for a fact that when we were in high school, we were studying biology and chemistry, and so there are a lot of even algebra. So there are a lot of mathematical stuffs, formulas, and things that we were able to solve. But way back during the ancient Greeks' time, in during the time of Archimedes and Pythagoras, they were struggling throughout their lives in order to discover this particular method, to have this particular technique. But in our present society, we are already having the time of our life, thanks to Archimedes and Pythagoras, that we are now able to solve some particular mathematical solutions in with a particular ease, because what they have had in the future has been passed on to the next generation and to the next generation and up to our generation momentarily, and perhaps we would also pass it to our next generation. So that's it. Culture maintains the biologic functioning of the group. The next function is that culture gives meaning and direction to one's existence. So how does culture provides meaning and direction to one's existence? So basically, guys, a particular theory, a particular theory states that a society or a particular culture functions based. Okay, I'm quite out of words here. I'll just put it this way. To be very specific, structural functional theory proposes that culture functions as a structure in a given society. So, um, in in uh, in that particular setup, okay, in that particular theory, it says that when a particular culture exists to meet human needs, then that particular culture has already gives meaning and direction to one's existence. So, for example, of a particular culture wherein it gives meaning and direction to our lives or to our existence is basically when a particular culture functions on a manner that it would tells you, or it will guides you, and even gives you cues and makes you well informed as to how you will live with your life. Okay, so for instance, guys, as we go along with our life, like sometimes we get lost, but our culture tells us that you have to specifically follow this particular pattern, and that when when you were born, okay, you just stay at home, you're being nurtured and being taken good care of your family. But later on your life, you have to go to school. Now you see, going to school is part of our culture, and it is not enough that you will go to school, because right after school you have to be doing something out of your life. So in that particular sense, guys, culture is giving us another direction on how to live our life, and that is to have a job or to get a career, and then after which perhaps our culture will also tells us that you are already of the proper age to be married or to establish your own family, and perhaps you may do so. So culture basically sets the direction of our way of living, as the way I put it in our in the given scenario that I have mentioned. And most importantly, guys, it is not just about living, no, because when we die, actually, part of our culture is telling us that when we die, there should be a funeral rituals now, and after the funeral rituals, then we should be buried in a particular place. But please take note that, of course, the funeral rituals and the proper burial would vary as to how our culture has as to how it fits our culture, rather, or as to how our our society um, um, our society practice that particular culture. So that's basically how culture gives meaning and direction to one's existence. Now, another function of culture is that culture offers a ready-made solution to a person's material and non-material problems. So, how does a particular culture offers us a ready-made solution to our material and non-material problems? It's like this, guys. For instance, let's talk about the material problems first. Okay. For instance, in our current situation, having this uh, pandemic era, no, we are so challenged as to how to go about with our education. And so what does our material culture provide us? It provides us with computers in order for us to survive our college life. It provides us our mobile phones so that we will be able to still go to school regardless of the difficulties that we are suffering, that is being brought about by the pandemic, because we could not have our regular setting of schooling, or we could not have our traditional ways of learning. And so there, I think you get my point. You were able to understand based on that example. So in non-material problem, I think I will put it this way. For instance, guys, about okay, let's just be very focused with the example that I have gave earlier. I'll just connect this one, but we won't get lost. Okay, given that we are living in this very challenging time due to the pandemic, definitely some of us might be having a breakdown. Like, just like me, I had my anxiety attack because it is so hard to be fighting something that we cannot see, and that is particularly the coronavirus. How could we protect ourselves from that particular virus, from that very deadly virus, when we do not know as to how it would affect us? So in this particular situation, guys, how do we do about it? So we rely on our faith. We rely on our God, and so we pray, and so we entrust everything to Him. So that is how non-material culture provides a particular solution to our problem. So as you can see, basically, because we find ourselves helpless, and basically we know for a fact that it is way beyond our control, that regardless of how many masks we wear, regardless of taking good care of ourselves, it may still affect us. So we just pray, and we just rely to our gods, whoever he may be, because I know for a fact we belong to a different sects. So no, kanang lahi-lahi taog sect, like You might be Christian, or I might be Catholic, and some of us might be Jehovah's Witnesses. So, but what matters is that we believe that we have a God that would hear our prayers, and that would provide us a certain invisible mantle of protection, that we would not be we will not become sick of such a deadly disease. Okay, so there you go. That is another function of culture. Now let's talk about another one, and that is culture develops person's attitudes and values and gives conscience. So how does a culture develops a person's attitude and values, and how does it gives us conscience? I think I think it is a very how would I put it, self-explanatory, that culture always serves us a sense of making, and it also serves as a control mechanism, that it always guides and it shapes our attitudes and our behaviors. Now, of course, when considering the non-material culture, we have the particular processes that a culture uses to shape our thoughts, to shape our feelings, and most particularly our behavior. And according to our sociologists, these are our symbols. Okay, now take note that our symbols are part of our culture. Then we also have the languages, and of course, we have our values, and then we have our norms. So, with those four most important aspects of culture, I think it is enough for us to be guided as to how we go about with our attitudes, and as to how about we will exercise our proper way of thinking, as to understand which one should we give value. And also uh, it also our values and our norms also provides us conscience, in a way that we will be very sensitive and cautious with our dealings towards other individuals, and even towards ourselves, because the values that is being instilled in us by our culture is telling us that there are ways that we can do because it is right and okay, but there are other things that we are really not allowed to do, or totally we are being reprimanded not to do, because it is against our norms or our values as well. Okay, so those are the functions of culture. So I hope I was able to discuss it thoroughly, and that you were able to understand it all clearly.